Imagine you are not here but in the turbine hall in the bowels of the Tate Modern, London. Avant-garde industrial music is being pumped through the speaker system. How do you feel?
Visually and artistically, at ease, yet a little threatened. I crave for the melodic simplicity of the music of days gone by, with a postmodern twist. I don't look for a brand new art form.
Please. Imagine you are not here but in the back room of a small, cluttered New York second-hand bookshop. It's midsummer and one can hear the sound of traffic and raised voices from the street. How do you feel?
I feel like Tom Hanks reading Paul Auster.
Please, imagine you are not here but in a low-ceiling dive bar just off a canal in St. Petersburg. How do you feel?
Nervous, unsure, intimidated, tired, dirty.
Help yourself to drinks. What have you chosen?
Pint of Guinness, please.
Beer.
Chili vodka, and a complimentary vodka from the bar, which is what I had actually when I went to St. Petersburg to the Idiot Bar.
Vodka martini with 3 olives.
Why?
1 olive for me, 2 for my friends.
Would you consider Dean Martin to be an influence?
A gone-to-seed Las Vegas crooner in a cheap suit? Of course.
A recent photo depicts you as a mid-war aesthete in the style of a young Christopher Isherwood. This era is clearly of great significance to you. Do you draw your inspiration from this time?
Well, at the time I was going through a phase of reading Saki, Woodhouse, E.F. Benson, Edmund Crispin. I started speaking in epigrams, really. It was the look I was going for was what interwar war.
The image portrayed of Jack Miami is one of the troubled poet, the besooted chanson crooner, heart firmly tagged on sleeve, but also that of the post-war intellectual. It is an image that borrows heavily from the torch singers from the 1950s or 1960s. Do you draw your inspiration from a particular artist or time?
My chosen name is the key to my influences. We have Jacques Brel, the passionate, intellectual French singer, songwriter, meets Miami, the Rat Pack Glitz. Just for good measure, we throw in a little bit of heartbreak blues. The poetry of Scott Walker, the erudition of the Divine Comedy, the music of Cormac McCarthy, the architecture of Serge Gainsbourg, etc., etc., etc.
The image of Nicky Roubles is a difficult one. The elements of the tortured artist are present. You are the sonic pioneer, the rogue element. I see you behind a bank of synthesizers. I see you looking for things to hit and record the resulting din. I see you pushing the limits of what is acceptable. Do you draw your inspiration from a particular artist or time?
I'm very keen on Roxy music. I'm obsessed with Einstürzend and Neubauten. Elements of that probably bleeds through into my work.
Who are your key influences, literarily, sonically, or otherwise?
Bulgakov, Boris Vian, Blaise Cendrars. Artistically, I love Dali, De Chirico. I love the Dadaists. One of our recent photo shoots was an homage to the Dadaists.
How do you reconcile these art forms with the fact that you are essentially a singer?
Well, I'm primarily a visual artist, a storyteller. Music is just a medium which I've fallen into through a combination of vocation and bone idleness.
I have a very foggy appreciation of your youth. The sources for research simply are not there. I have an impression of a young mambo raised in the north of England or France, attending college, perhaps Newcastle, like the young Brian Ferry, and then there is this move, presumably to a more bohemian scene in Belgium.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I did spend formative years in Paris and Brussels. In fact, in Belgium, I turned 21. I was living at the time in a garret above the Hairy Canary pub. I was changing light bulbs by day at the European Parliament. By night, I was earning a few extra centimes playing Leonard Cohen covers in a Cuban bar off the Grand Place.
Being originally from Catalonia, do you feel an affinity between yourself and the poet Lorca, or indeed the artists Picasso and Dali?
No, they mean nothing to me.
Originally from Wales, do you feel an affinity between yourself and the poet Dylan Thomas? And how do you feel you fit in with the idea of Welshness?
I share a geographical location with a lot of people I admire. For example, Richard Burton, Shirley Bassey, Arthur Machen. I'm very interested in an almost indefinable sense of Welsh glamour. Cymru glitz, South glam.
You are primarily a musician. How would you describe your music?
Uneasy listening.
Anachronistic Welsh chanson.
Bad thoughts set to exotic tunes.
Your music seems informed by a broader, global palette, whilst avoiding more traditional rock and roll influences. Certain pieces are sung in different languages, or make reference to continental poets or musicians. The references to tango, chanson, the torch songs of Weimar-era Berlin. Why, for example, would you not prefer to sing about matters affecting your own country?
Well, why limit yourself?
Well, as interested as I might be in politics, in my own personal life, we, the Drunken Gentlemen, feel that we cannot concentrate on things that are transient, things that are linked to one particular place, one particular time, but rather we prefer to sing about things that are eternal. Of course, that is a contradiction because I have a personal affinity, as I believe do all of us, have an affinity for the 20th century, something we're very rooted in. It permeates all of our art.
I understood you were a futurist.
Empty bravado. Futurism was important at the genesis, the creation of the band. It was important to break from our personal musical history and influenced our name, but that is all.
I like the melodies and the rhythms. I have an affinity.
You come across as a very literary or culturally astute band. Would you say this is true?
Oh, yes.
No.
You know, people see the word pretentious as a dirty word, as an insult. I don't see why. What's wrong with striving to be more cultural, more knowledgeable? I mean, this elevation of the lowest common denominator, this idolization of lowbrow is extremely worrying, in my opinion.
Bloody Welshman.
You also create short films. How did the promotional material for Bring Me the Head of Jacques Miami come about?
Well, I don't think I'm exaggerating if I call it a madman's quest. An impossible dream that Nicky Roubles and myself chased. We travelled to Valencia, then jumped in a car and travelled across the plains of Almeria to find the original village where A Fistful of Dollars was filmed. I think we drove for about 4 or 5 hours. We filmed guerrilla style for about an hour, and then we jumped back in the car and we drove straight back. It was our own personal Fitzcarraldo.
Bring a drop of sweet sherry to my lips. I'm a trifle unsteady.
Talk to me about these songs. Simple Pleasures.
Simple Pleasures is a love song. Simple.
Chanson d'ivresse.
My ode to Paris. If you're ever stuck on the metro, then just listen to the song and you'll be able to find your way to the Thames.
Set Fire to the Piano.
Set Fire to the Piano, I believe, is about an incident when Jacques Miami went to a nightclub, danced like a mad fool, wearing sunglasses, in a shirt, and ordered absinthe, accidentally spilled it drunkenly on the bar and set fire to it. I think it's about that.
The lyrics of this song are just a metaphor. It's in no way based on any real events or otherwise. It was just the idea, this powerful image that I've got of the artist on the funeral pyre, burning himself, setting fire to himself for the amusement of the crowd, you know, bearing his soul, bearing his feelings, so that the crowd may be entertained.
Bésame mucho.
Bésame Mucho I discovered through Jet Harris, the Surf King, the bass soloist, an excellent man, and he played the bass solo for it. I had that version. I played it to Jacques one night, and he started singing the original in Spanish. So that is a song that fits very much into the Drunken Gentlemen's canon. We're going to do it!
Lascars.
Lascars is a song about prostitution in Marseille.
Evil in My Brain.
Evil in My Brain is a song about prostitution in Marseille.
I've Had a Ball.
It's about Mayakovsky, the Russian poet. He used to go to straight up cabaret. He's visiting a prostitute in Marseille.
Are you proud of your work?
Always.
Never.
Absolutely. Are you? What is pride?
Do you have any music in your collection you wouldn't want me to know about? Tell me about it.
It's probably what's not in my collection you'd be more concerned about. No early Human League for a start.
Falco. And I want everyone to know about it.
Well, I'm a product of my youth. I fought the indie wars and lost, and as a result I have many scars. Shed 7 scars. Menswear wounds.
Which book are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading Decline and Fall.
Ooh, I'm reading the latest Dan Brown. And also Russell Brand's... I'm reading Albert Camus' L'Étranger in French.
What was the last great film you saw?
Lars von Trier, Melancholia.
A Bout de Souffle is the great film. All you need to make a movie is a girl and a gun, says Godard. What's not to like?
Ghostbusters.
Do you have role models?
Apart from the Drunken Gentlemen?
Only an idolised version of myself, of what I wish to be. His name is Jacques Miami.
What is your favourite colour?
Bleu.
Why?
Parce que.
Black.
Why?
It's explicit, mystical, timeless, elegant.
Black and gold.
Why?
Ask Sam Sparrow.
There is a scene in Tarkovsky's Nostalgia where the main character carries a candle from one side of the swimming pool to the other in one long take. I often imagine you in this role in a metaphorical sense.
Sometimes
Finally, talk to me about the Aarons.
This interview is over.